And we're back with our candidates' sit-downs for 2014. Next up, Wes Stockwell. He's the Mason County Coroner, running unopposed.
Correct.
And I just want to bring him in here to put a face to the name or a face to the position. First, take a couple of minutes to briefly tell us about yourself, your background, and why you're seeking re-election.
All right. Thank you for having me. Well, I'm Shelton native. I was born and raised here in Mason County and grew up at Island Lake. Shelton High School graduate. When I was in my early 20s, I joined the Washington State Patrol and lived throughout the state with my assignments for the patrol. 26 years total career with the patrol. And I kind of cut my teeth for this job in my patrol job. Obviously, in the patrol, we deal with traffic fatalities and things like that. So there were many times throughout my career, not only as a trooper but as a sergeant, where we dealt with local coroners and medical examiners. So that kind of piqued my interest and got me to look into the job. And as I got closer to retirement, I thought, well, maybe I might be able to transition into that position someday. As it turned out, I was assigned back to Mason County in the latter years of my career, and got to know Martha Reed, the coroner at the time. And Mason County had just come into the coroner system then. Before that, the prosecutor handled all the coroner matters. It was a role, but about the time I took over as the sergeant here, it became a full-time position. So I got to know Martha Reed and kind of thought that maybe after I retired I might go to work for her as a deputy coroner. And as it turned out, Martha passed away during her term as coroner, and so the county commissioners appointed me as the coroner. I applied for the job and interviewed with several other applicants and ended up in the position, and then have been elected 2 times. This will be the 3rd election I'm involved in right now. So I like helping people, and not only in the state patrol, even though some people would claim we don't help them. We do help a lot of people, and the same thing in this job. It's a tough job, but I like helping the families, the people that are left behind from the deceased, help them through the process and the grieving or whatever they have. This week I had a family who had to come up from Oregon. Their brother died unexpectedly here, and it was a total surprise. It was an unexpected death. They had no knowledge of their brother's life up here, and so I spent the week directing them through the process of how to handle a death. They didn't know how to find a will or what to do if there was a will. They didn't know how to unlock the house, so I directed them to local resources for locksmiths, funeral homes, and things like that. So it's a rewarding experience helping people in the job.
So Wes, I'm going to stop you right there. I just want to, why don't you explain what your office does other than you're helping people, and why don't you go through when the coroner gets called, what do you do?
Okay. So the nuts and bolts of the job are that a coroner and a medical examiner, the same exact role, same exact legal duties. A medical examiner is for a larger county. Coroners are for populations of less than 45,000, I think.
Okay.
The nuts and bolts of the job are that we determine the cause and manner of death for all unnatural appearing deaths. So if you die from what appears to be a drowning, we take jurisdiction. If you die from a bullet wound, we take jurisdiction. A drug overdose, a suicide, any type of suicide, anything that's from an unnatural cause, the coroner steps in, and usually we do an autopsy. I have a pathologist that does autopsies. And so we investigate and make sure everything is what it appears to be, and then we certify the death. We're the ones that put on the death certificate, this person died from drug intoxication or asphyxia due to hanging, whatever the cause of death is. And then there's also the manner of death. Is the manner of death a natural death? Is it a suicide? Is it a homicide? Is it an accident? If we don't know, we just put undetermined until we can figure it out further down the road. So that's the nuts and bolts of what we do, is we handle all unnatural deaths. We also respond and handle any death that is suspicious. If we don't know, the police don't know what they have, and they want us to go further, we do. And then there's one side issue that we handle just because somebody has to take over, and that's when someone dies and they are unclaimed. So even if you die from natural causes, if there's no one that can step forward and say, hey, this is my relative, this is my next of kin, or I'm the next of kin for this person, if there's no one that can step forward, then the coroner automatically takes jurisdiction over that death. And we, first of all, take the body into our care, and then we also do a search for relatives, next of kin. And if we can't find next of kin, then I sign a cremation order, and through a local funeral home, we contract with our 2 local funeral homes, and they cremate the body. I sign the death certificate, and then we hold the remains for a certain period of time. I think it's 45 days. And if no one steps forward to finally claim the body or the ashes, then we have them buried at the Shelton Cemetery. Or if it's a veteran, sometimes we know the person's a veteran, we'll have them their remains sent up to the Tahoma National Cemetery in Kent. So. That's the basics of what we do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So while you've been in office, so what improvements have been made to better serve the county? I've made quite a few changes and upgrades to our system since I became the coroner. The one thing that I'm glad we did, and I'm happy it happened, is that we've moved all of our autopsy operations to Kitsap and Thurston counties. And Kitsap and Thurston counties both have brand new, state-of-the-art, hospital-like settings for their autopsy suites. Before that, we used local funeral homes, their preparatory rooms for autopsies. Now, it wasn't horrible. I mean, I liken it to being a MASH hospital where, it's acceptable, but it's not perfect. And we've gone from a MASH hospital setting to Boston General, the cream of the crop for a setting. And of course, that makes my pathologist very happy. I'm working in that kind of a setting as well. So I was able to do that and establish very reasonable rates from these counties. I just basically pay them a fee for every time we do an autopsy there. And the rates are much more reasonable than I was actually paying locally. And we have access to X-ray equipment, storage, refrigeration. Excuse me. So that's one of the things that I'm really proud I've done. I've also been able to digitize all of the coroner records back from the 1940s. When I took over, they were all, some of them were on microfilm, which is a standard that's still used to this day for retaining records. But instead of going to a machine and putting the reels on the machine and spinning the reels and looking at film like a movie theater would, or a movie film, they're now all on the computer, and we can just access them that way and do a search, and it's very, very nice and efficient. And actually, the funds that are provided, are provided by the archiving system for the state of Washington, so it doesn't cost Mason County any money to do that. We have also switched over to electronic death certificates. And when I took over, every death certificate was still done on a typewriter. And I had to learn how to use a typewriter again because it was the one document that still required using a typewriter. So in the last 5 years or so, we have switched over to electronic death certificates. Everything's done on the internet. I do a portion of the death certificate in my office. I then send it to the funeral home, and they do their portion, and then they send it to the state of Washington Health Records over in Olympia, and it's all done. It can be done in a matter of minutes versus a few days, where someone literally had to pick up the piece of paper and drive it to the next location. And then I also participate in autopsy reimbursement for the county. An autopsy is very expensive. Typically in the private world, they run $4,000 to $5,000 for a doctor to examine a body. And all coroners and medical examiners in the state are allowed to participate in a reimbursement program through the state. So if I have a body that needs autopsying, it's done for a discounted fee, and then the state of Washington reimburses our county 40% of whatever the cost was for that. So again, a significant savings for Mason County. It comes to about $30,000 or $40,000 a year that we save the county. So.
And I think that's about it on my list for improvements.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are there any limitations in your office?
I had to think long and hard about this, but the one limitation I face currently is, and I touched on the unclaimed bodies earlier. A lot of these people who die unclaimed have plenty of money. They have assets. Mm-hmm. But right now, the system is set up so that I can't access their assets to pay for their cremation and burial, transport, all that. So the county pays everything. And the roadblock is that it costs more money to go through the legal process to access their funds and their assets than it is just to pay the bill. So I would like to see maybe an improvement, legal improvements in that area, so that when someone dies, and a lot of people just don't have relatives, they mm-hmm. for whatever reason, that we can still obtain their assets, their funds, so that we can pay for their cremation or burial instead of having the taxpayers have to pay for it. So, but right now I can't do it; it's just too expensive.
So what needs to be improved in your office? Is there anything?
The profession needs to be improved, and what I would like to see for coroners is right now there is no national standard. There are no certification requirements. Anyone can run for a public office, basically, whether it be the coroner, the clerk, treasurer, auditor, assessor. Basically, if you're over 18 years old, you can run for a public office. And what I see in the coroner profession is that people sometimes get into the job, and because the profession has no certification requirements, I've seen some pretty inept examples of coroners, in parts of the state, and I've also learned about the same situations throughout the United States. But what I'd like to see is some kind of licensing or credentialing. Once you obtain the job, that you must, by a certain date, obtain some credentialing, so that we have competent investigators. We are the eyes and the ears for the doctor that does the autopsy. The doctor never goes to the scene. They never get up in the middle of the night and go to a death scene. So they rely on us for everything. We bring them our cases. And if you don't know what you're doing, things can get really messed up. So I would like to see some kind of licensing or credentialing for coroners. Right now I do require my deputies to go through training that the Coroner Association for Washington State puts on every year, and that involves testing and going through exercises and things like that. But a coroner could literally do nothing and still have the job, and so I think that needs to be addressed.
Is there anything on the horizon that will impact how you operate your office?
I don't think so right at the moment. I have been informed that my office will be moving, but we're going to be transferred to another section of the county building so that the Superior Court can take over my office. It's just going to be more room for their juries and things. But I don't think the public will have any knowledge of that happening, other than just knowing where to go.
And nothing regulated in the coroner that you know of? That's
not right now.
Down,
no, not right now.
And you're not subject to legislation at any point?
Oh, absolutely. Every year there's usually a bill that's introduced about something, and I can't think of anything on the horizon right now. But yeah, there are things that crop up every so often. So.
Okay, Wes. Well, thank you for taking some time and talking to us and letting everybody know what you do for the county. If anybody has any questions, can they contact you?
Absolutely. My office phone number at the courthouse is 360-427-7752. And happy to help people, walk them through the process, whatever they need. So.
Whatever you need.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thanks, Wes, for coming in.
You're welcome.